Everybody, so it's Marie from Pear Tree Paper Crafts, and I'm here with this process video. This is my first process video, so bear with me. This one is for a layout called Love Your Beautiful Smile, and I'm using the Heidi Swap Hawthorn collection for this. Currently just trimming off the sides of some paper. They tear out of the booklet, and it's much easier to just trim them off later. And then right now I'm just sorting out my cut file for my Cricut. It's going to be like a little Polaroid type frame with the word smile on the bottom, out of this lovely stripy paper. I'm just positioning it so it gets it just on the stripy part without any of the extra embellishments, and just pulling out some other bits of embellishments while my Cricut decides to connect to my computer. So bear with me, I've just disappeared for a minute to put the mat into the computer. That photograph there is the one we're scrapping. It's actually my son at Legoland this Christmas, hiding behind a tree, and I just absolutely loved his smile on this photograph. I really wanted to use that word magical because it was a Christmas layout, but in the end it just didn't work out that way. And right now trying to get the cut off the mat so you can just see the word smile there. So I'm just using my little Cricut tool there to peel it off carefully. This is a thinner weight than I would normally use, which is why I had to be really careful peeling that off. Just going to trim the photograph down now to fit into that frame. And I actually trimmed too much of it because I was planning on leaving the photograph behind the word smile, and I end up using some white. As you can see there, it's not quite enough, so I end up using some white paper, white cardstock, to put behind the word smile to make it stand out, because it needed something else because I was going to be putting other cardstocks. Use my little fine liner glue just to go around the edge, and put some extra bits of adhesive on. Move the paper out of the way. Made that mistake before and accidentally stuck it to the backing paper rather than just the thing I was trying to stick. Love the way that frame looks. And then I think at this point I start messing about with different pieces of paper, because I love that paper, the spotty there with the, like, it's kind of got a foresty background, but actually it doesn't quite work for the layout. And I was looking for some lettering, that's what I was doing. It didn't quite work, and I decided in the end that I wanted to put something different behind. So you'll notice from the photographs from the beginning, it is completely different to how it looks right now. So I'm just going to have a look at these lettering. I'm trying to find words that say something like "you make me smile," or something that would fit above smile that I can put on the frame, and I can't find anything, so I'm just going to leave that for a while and then go back. At this point I start playing with lots of different paper layering. I end up cutting up quite a few sheets before I'm happy with what I've chosen, but it doesn't bother me too much because I know I will use those pieces of paper on these layouts later. I'm not concerned that I won't. There we go, look, I've pulled the white cardstock out, thinking that actually, yeah, it needs to be lighter. It was feeling on that other one very dark. I am much more comfortable, happy with lighter coloured backgrounds and things. I do prefer lighter coloured cardstock and lighter coloured layouts. I don't mind dark colours on them, but I do like to have light colours. It kind of permeates through my entire house. Everything is quite light coloured. I'm just deciding I quite like that wood. I quite like that grid paper as well. I love the roses, but in the end I think I'll take that away. Try and work out what's going to work. I'll go back to the darker one. Am I going to just kind of frame that in those colours? Am I going to do it on the white? I do kind of go around in circles a little bit here, but then I get a scrap of white here just to back the word smile. Put behind that to make that really stand out. And just chop that off really quickly, and then go around with my glue. Excuse the brace on my hand, just recovering from a nasty accident that I had. Teaching this young man in the photograph how to ice skate, and he did really well. I fell over. Never fallen over in quite as badly before. Skated since I was very tiny, and broke quite a few bones actually. So just getting back into being able to sit at my desk and do things. So thought I would give my first process video a try. I cut off that little strip there because I really like that bit of like writing on the bottom and thing, that I can tuck that in somewhere on the layout. I'm still not happy. I know it's not quite right. I know it's not quite working. The wood with the dots is just not happening. It doesn't feel quite right. This is me tapping my... what did I do now? In a moment. Sometimes you just have to sit back a minute and wait for it to appeal to you. And eventually something will come to you and you'll just see it. I had that happen once where I picked up the pieces of paper, dropped them onto another sheet by accident, and then suddenly looked at that sheet and went, oh, that's exactly what I want. That's exactly how I want it to be. Which I think is quite interesting, because it was a happy accident that I ended up with it very different. Oh, if you heard that strange noise then, that's just my dog, Millie, who's waiting for her tea. Yeah, moving them all again. Off they go. And we're back to the white. And the dots on the white. I think that my hand gesture there was kind of like, oh look, finally I've figured out how I want it and that's going to look right. So, trying to work out how much of it I wanted. Nice piece there. And I'm really happy with that now, because I think it all just stands off the page. I do actually fussy cut one of the flowers off that sheet there, and then in the end decide not to use it. I love this stripy paper. Don't use lots and lots of it. I think all of it at once is a bit much, but a small amount of it. I decided to put a strip across the whole page behind there. Cut it down a little bit. One of the things I've learned recently, by looking back through many of my old scrapbooks and looking back through things I've previously done, looking at the ones I do like and the ones I don't like. The ones I like have all got lots of layers and lots of embellishments on there and lots of interest, lots of things to look at. And then the ones that I don't particularly like, the ones that I think, oh, I'd really like to redo that, they're the ones that I think, oh look, yeah, they're not, I've not put enough layers in, and there's only a couple of different sheets in there, and worked out for myself, actually it's really quite a bit boring. There we go, I'm just layering up some pieces of paper there. I've decided to put some more of the stripy that I used around the frame, just to tie the two, kind of the back and the front of the layout together. And I decided to get my little corner rounder out. That's the Stampin' Up one. Had that for ages. I don't round a lot of corners, but it's just that the corners are rounded on that photograph frame there, so I felt that it did need rounding just to kind of tie the whole thing together. Like I say, it's not something I often do now. I think you go through phases of things where you do a lot of something and then not so much of it. Playing with the order now, the piece of paper. Like I say, that flower eventually comes out. It didn't seem to quite fit with the theme. It's a woodlandy theme. The photograph was actually taken on the trail towards seeing Santa, and the flower felt almost too summery to go in there. So here come the embellishments out of the pack. These again are the Heidi Swapp Hawthorn ephemera, and the first few I pull out just slot in beautifully, and then I go through the rest, find a couple of extra pieces that I like. I liked that one more photo. I think this is one more photo for the album, but it was too much and I couldn't tuck it in, so I decided to leave it. I do put that on, and I also put a circular one on that's similar in a mountain range like that, but I do end up taking that off. It felt like too much. I really liked having a good chunk of white space at the top of the page. I've recently started buying an awful lot more of the ephemera to go with the papers I buy. So previously I would buy lots and lots of paper, but not the ephemera, and recently I've been making sure that I buy the pad of paper, so a set of paper, and then the ephemera to go with, because I just think, you know, the designers have gone to all this trouble so that everything coordinates beautifully, and then I'm kind of rifling through everything I've got trying to make things fit together, when actually, you know, the packs kind of do that already. And it's also pushed me out of my comfort zone and made me use things on layouts that perhaps I wouldn't have used before. There you go, I've taken those two things off now. Decided not to use them in the end. But I do get that globe back out. Quite like that globe. I found an arrow. Because whilst we are just on a trail through the forest and go and see Santa, and it's quite a set out trail, and there's, you know, you have to go one way, it did feel very much like we were exploring, and like we were wandering, and we didn't quite know where we were going and how long the trail was going to be before we made it there. So that was lovely, really good. And I think pretty much that is how the layout ends up being. I think my next job from this point is to stick it all down, which I always find difficult when I've done so many layers, and I tend not to stick things until I'm really happy and I'm sure that it's the way I want it to be. So I don't stick them down, and then have awful difficulty trying to work out which bit goes where, which bit sticks on first. So with this one, I kind of just lifted up corners. I finally found some little words out of my stash as well, and then that became the title of Your Beautiful Smile. He does have an infectious smile, does my son, and he has the most gorgeous dimples. I do put little moments on the side, but felt it didn't really fit. It was too white, it was stood out too much. Took that back off. And then I start sticking. I decide to stick the hearts on first, and then I stick the arrow down in the bottom corner, because I thought if I stick those two bits down first, I've got like a reference point, so that when I know it's got to fit between those two areas. So then I can stick everything else down, pull things out, and try and work it out. And it's only when I then lift the whole lot off, when all the bits are stuck down, that I then sort of cover the back with double-sided sticky tape, which I can now tear. I'm getting a bit of strength back in my hand. I decided to use some adhesive foam for the back of the photograph, just to give a little bit of dimension. to the layout. I'm just using some double-sided sticky tape. I either use that kind of double-sided sticky tape which has the finger lift tab, so the tape doesn't go all the way to both edges of the waxy paper, so you can easily lift it up and you're not fighting with it. Or I do use an ATG gun as well sometimes, but I knew there was going to be quite a lot of tape on this one, so I thought I would use my double-sided, just lining it up carefully and making sure it's all exactly where I want it to go, and not putting tape where it's not wanted. Sometimes when I'm doing this stage I will take a photograph with my phone and then just have that up ready so I can see like where I got up to and what bit goes where, because with the best will in the world, when you take, I've done it before and decided on it, got it absolutely perfect, then started taking things off to put them and stick them down, and then forgotten where everything went and it not quite going back together how I wanted it to, which is really disappointing when you have worked so hard on a layout. And I think we're nearly finished sticking that word explore down in the corner. And then I decided to use a little bit of the Tim Holtz film strip. It's like an acetate ribbon, it's like a plasticky ribbon. It's on a reel, and I absolutely adore it. And I think it has appeared on many a layout up to now. Just tucked into the sides, glues down really easily. And the last thing I'm deciding to do is just flick some mica mist from Nuvo paint drops all over. This is antique gold, goes on lovely. It's a really dark colour, dries a little bit lighter, and has a lovely little shimmer to it, just to break up a little bit of that white. And there we have it.